Hello and welcome to Africa Media Matters, featuring interviews and comment about media issues across the African continent. I'm Alex Jakana. Following the prominent role that Facebook and Twitter played in sparring protests in Tunisia and Egypt, Sudanese activists sought to employ social media to muster a demonstration in Khartoum. But the January 30th protest was poorly attended and easily broken up by the security forces. Sudanese-born journalist and commentator Nesrin Malik explained why social media has limited influence in Sudan.
There are a few reasons. One is that internet penetration is relatively new to the country. The uptake has been quite slow. It's in the major cities. Internet is available, but the way people use it is still very much in terms of just sending out emails and kind of basic internet communication, as opposed to using it as a way of gathering in a community. But also because the way the country is set up in terms of community, it's much less fragmented than in the more developed Arab countries. Egypt and Tunisia are relatively more developed than Sudan. It's much more urbanized, it's much more atomized, whereas community is still quite strong in Sudan. And so people feel less of a need to gather in a virtual community because they have a real live one.
Nesrin then went on to tell us who was behind the Facebook group that was set up to organize the protest.
Well, it was set up by students mostly, and mostly in cities like Khartoum. It wasn't started by activists. It wasn't started by the older, more established political opposition and the elite, which is much, much older. It's sort of 3 generations removed almost. People like Sadiq al-Mahdi and the Ummah Party are very, very aged, old opposition parties. And so this was actually the first time that opposition to the government was just activism from the grassroots. So it was mostly students, mostly youth. They set up a group called Sharara, or Spark, and proceeded to invite Sudanese people on Facebook to attend this demonstration. However, the people who actually joined the group, most of them were expatriates. I remember getting the invite and going in and then looked at the attendees, and most of them were people I knew who lived outside Sudan. Some lived in London. And so it had started out as a local movement, but then really caught momentum with expatriates. There's a massive diaspora of young Sudanese who've grown up in the West. And that was the profile. It was kind of young, educated, definitely more literate than your average Sudanese, and mostly either westernized or living there, so had spent some time outside of Sudan.
And there were several reasons why the protests didn't take off.
The first reason is there isn't that widespread a sense of disaffection as in other Arab countries. The timing was clumsy in the sense that it was a very sensitive moment because the South had just voted to secede. People in the North were, I think, quite cognizant of the fact that this was a sensitive and fragile moment in the country's history, and therefore their appetite for more instability was negligible. So that was the main reason why there wasn't that much support for the movement. And I think it was just hard to get that many people organized because the people who said they were going to attend this demonstration were sort of 30,000 strong, but the people who were actually in the country who were going to attend turned out to be hundreds, maybe altogether throughout the country about 500-600 people. And also the response by the security forces was very swift. It was kind of scorched earth, Tiananmen Square. Some people were even arrested before they'd made it to the demonstration and hauled off and beaten because there were so few people on the ground. It was quite easy for the security forces to push them back.
Finally, we asked Nesrin if she thought that social media might be used as a tool for social activism in Sudan in the future.
I think in Sudan it will play an important role insofar as it will be the first point of contact. People will gather and create an event, and then it can spread by word of mouth to those who aren't exposed to the internet. And so I think that even though internet penetration is low, even though people have kind of a disdain of social media and it's not really taken seriously, there will be a hardcore group of people who continue to use it. But in terms of social media creating a steady, permanent momentum from which these protests can take off, I don't think it's likely. The other role it might play, if it's via Twitter, is it will get the message out to the outside world.
That was Nesrin Malik. IWPR, giving voice, driving change.